Good morning. Hi, I hope everyone can hear me well. My name is Rishi Kalanke. Thank you very much for the introduction, Claire. And I work for HP, and I'm the Channel Mobility Specialist. The objective for today is the 15-minute slot I've got. I'm going to talk about a few trends in mobility, how that's driving the change in different organizations, and how actually it's driving the demand in technology as well. And plus, obviously, the focus on security. So I'll cover a few elements on that. And after 15 minutes, I'll pass it on to my colleague from Microsoft, James Marshall, who is apparently an SMB technology guy. And he will take over to cover the enterprise mobility suite piece from Microsoft. And then we will take questions after the presentations. Great. Okay. Right. If you can see my next slide, can you? Is it moving? Stop moving, Claire. Okay. Can you see my next slide now? Yeah. Right. Okay. So as you can see from this slide, we have roughly about 1.3 billion people, workers will be mobile in 2016. Actually, this slide clearly demonstrates the ever-growing requirement for organizations such as yourself to provide their employees with ultra-mobile productivity solutions. And what actually this is doing is, in turn, is influencing PC manufacturers like HP to become more and more innovative with their product roadmaps in order to leverage the growth opportunity we see in the market today. This slide actually clearly demonstrates mobility is here to stay, and the trends keep demanding employees to provide mobility solutions. As you can see, it's a rough old data, to be honest with you, but you can get a gist of it. 80% of people are teleworking between 2012 and 15. 37% of people regularly work from multiple locations. I actually go in that category. And computing from third location, which is 20% of the time they spend in coffee shops, hotel lobbies, etc., etc. Right? So what's happening? So business is moving very, very fast, as you can probably feel it yourself. There's a proliferation of devices coming into your hands, and the more and more devices we are getting, the more and more data is also floating around. And device could be about £100 to £1,000, but the data is worth millions. So business is moving fast, and how can we stay along with that fast pace to give your employees the best they want to be productive? Right. So this could be, everyone could relate if they're not a digital millennial, which is anyone born after 1983, you can all relate to these type of different solutions and device-centric solutions. Many years ago, as you know, if you're executive level, etc., you had a laptop or you had a tablet, and people were working from their desk only. They only had the luxury of a desktop, and they couldn't work from home when they went back after 5:30 when they switched off. But now that is clearly changing from device-centric model to a workspace-centric solution. As you can very, very see, it's more dynamic. People are mobile more and more, and every office will have a use case today. So we will have some desk workers who do not need a tablet, who do not need an ultra-mobile device. They're happy with their thin client or desktop solutions. But people who will be constantly facing customer visits, people are constantly working from different locations, they are actually demanding organizations to provide them with ultra-mobile devices. So it's working. The shift is from device to workspace centric. So that's the slide for future office. It's driven by changes in what and where people are working. So I can't carry my desktop everywhere. As you can know, the traditional office where everyone had like desk base or banks, whatever they're called, to an emerging office where it's more collaborative, agile workspaces to increase productivity. I think there was a survey that organizations are trying to encourage employees to come into office more and more. So with collaborative thinking, you can get some greater ideas. So that's what the technology is helping people to drive those conversations. It's more informal. As you can see, it's more collaborative workspaces. People can sit in the office. My office is an ideal example where people are actually having a lot of conversations in a desk like these. We're just collaborating. Interactive conference rooms, which I'm using today. Where I can do a Skype for business call. I can talk to anyone in America through a TV screen. And obviously, there are integrated communal spaces for socializing, play, wellness, pool table, etc., etc. So this is an example of a modern office today where we see, and I'm sure you can relate to such a business, such an office model in your organization too. So where does HP see in the trends which are driving the technology very fast? How do we win in enterprise mobility? So to give you a synopsis, I'm sure you can read the slides yourself, but the key aspects are design and reliability, because we are using best-in-class aircraft-grade aluminum type materials, premium materials. All of our elite devices are military standard tested. If you don't know what they are about 14 rigorous tests, like drop tests, thermal shock, vibration. You can spill water on it and it should be all right, dust, etc. And we do HP total test process where we actually slog the devices for 115,000 hours to make sure they are proper, reliable commercial devices. Security and manageability. We have HP SureStart technology, which I will touch base later because it's about this demonstration is about security as well. Latest TPM 2.0 chipsets, we have fingerprint reader and smart card reader for dual security purposes. HP Touchpoint Manager, I will cover it later, and our devices are serviceable in the field. And productivity and collaboration, which is important, which goes back to the future office slide, which I just discussed, is we are using Intel 6th generation Skylake processors, Core M. We are using various docking stations for that collaborative approach or for hot desk type approach. We are using 4G connectivity, so your employees are productive anywhere they are, whether they're in office, whether they're in hotel lobbies, etc., where they have the seamless connectivity. We're using audio by Bang & Olufsen, which is for collaborative, it has a noise cancelling feature, as you can probably may or may not know. They have invested heavily in that particular technology, so Skype for Business actually works very seamlessly with Bang & Olufsen audio. And to be honest, the top of it is we've got world-class supply chain, global service support, no matter which region you are, and we also do HP subscription, which is not the topic today to discuss. Okay, so these are the three pillars we are capitalizing on to win in this enterprise mobility space. So to talk about, based on what we just discussed, we've launched about 2 new products. This particular product has been launched probably March, and there will be another product which I'll be discussing, which will be launched in August. So how this product actually helps you, to give you a quick synopsis. So this is an Elite X21012, which I'm using just now to present this presentation. It's a 12-inch fully diagonal, 12-inch diagonal full HD screen. It's a multi-touch display and Gorilla Corning glass force. It's a very toughened glass. It's a very thin and light design. I think it's about just over one kilogram. It's got up to 10 hours battery to give you that productivity wherever you are. Intel Core M 6th generation Skylake processor. Keep the device very cool. Make sure the battery life is quite longer, or to allow you to work your full working day, and also gives you the productivity you need. This device could be downgraded to Windows 8.1, but actually it comes with Windows 10 pre-installed. We've got fingerprint reader on the back of the tablet. I mean, I don't want to go into a lot of detail with lots of slides, so I'm just summarizing here. We've got fingerprint reader, we've got TPM 2.0, and you can actually lock the device down because, as we know, data is more important than the device. And we got 4G connectivity on this device as well. And now this device is actually aircraft-grade aluminum device, as I discussed about premium materials. And this device has passed all 14 military standard tests. So it can withstand your daily drops, pressures, etc. But again, that's just the device. I just want to quickly play a video so that will summarize and give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Sorry, that was just to give you a quick synopsis of. That was just to give you a quick synopsis of this this product which I was talking about. Hope it gave you a quick summary of it. But to focus on the security solutions, why this device is better for your organization, and how it's going to protect your employees and your business and your data, which will be utilized on this device. So we have HP SureStart technology, which is our own own kind of niche technology which we have developed. So it's a self-healing BIOS. So I've got one slide to actually explain it in probably clearly. So I will probably leave that to the next slide, but I want to move to data and identity protection. So we got multi-factor authentication. We got drive encryption. The SSD drives are encrypted. We got hardware protected fingerprint reader. So you have kind of another level of security which we have. And we have TPM 2.0. It's not 1.2. We have moved on to 2.0, and it's policy driven, which means your IT manager can reinforce policies on this particular device. HP Touchpoint Manager, which I loosely touched base in my previous slides, it's actually our own MDM solutions for probably mid-market type customers, where an IT manager can remotely lock and wipe the device if there is any threat, if someone has left the device somewhere, or if they have lost or stolen devices, and the IT manager can remotely lock and delete all the data on it, just to give you a quick idea on it. But it's more in detail. There's a lot of websites we can give you some information. So that's just in a nutshell. To come back on what HP SureStart technology actually is. So if someone actually attacks the device the employee is using today, or if there's an accidental corruption on your device where you get some kind of errors on your BIOS, or if there's an unknown corruption, this HP SureStart technology actually protects all these different attacks, knowing and unknowing or malicious, and keeps your device secure. And if anything happens, it recodes the whole BIOS in 0.7 nanoseconds and brings the user back up to the Control-Alt-Delete screen where they actually can utilize the password. The user doesn't even notice. It's actually less downtime for it. As you can see, it's uninterrupted productivity because there's no downtime. The SureStart technology makes sure the BIOS is protected. It only approves BIOS code will execute. The only HP approved BIOS code will be executed, which means there are less calls to your IT department. If something happens, you're working remotely in a different location, your IT is not bothered with these things because there is less downtime, and the self-healing actually automatically detects and recovers the BIOS from any kind of attack. So these are the key messaging for HP SureStart technology, which we have inculcated in our elite devices, which 1012 actually has. So this is the second device which I'm moving on. So the Elite X2 1012 is our premium 10 2-in-1 or hybrid device, whatever we call this. This is our new device. It's our new flagship product, again, called it Elite X3, but that's one device, that's every device. And I'm going to tell you what this device is about. So as you know, we discussed the different use cases in previous slides. It's desktop. The different users are using desktop to get your full productivity or seamless productivity, if I can say. Notebook to processing data or on the go if you are mobile, if you're working at home, working at different locations. So to give that notebook element. Tablet, you're using it for accessing data, and smartphone, you're using it for communication, making conference calls, etc. If we club all these different use cases into one, we have devised a new phablet and a PC. We actually want to call it as a PC. We don't want to call it as a phone. We have developed a new 5.9-inch PC in your pocket, which you can dock it with a desktop and connect it to your monitor, or you can dock it, or you can probably keep wirelessly plug it to your wireless connection to your dummy dock, which we call it as a laptop, which is actually only has its dead terminal with only 2 USB slots for it. So you can have different use cases and the productivity you want if you miss the desktop or you miss the element of your laptop work on it. Okay. With this device, which is a flagship product coming in August, we can access all your Windows x86 application. I've been told there are 2 billion x86 applications. You can access them with HP Workspace, which is kind of small subscription-based service, but it's not launched yet because the device is not launched yet, obviously. But you essentially you can access your data and your applications where you need, or when you're on the go, because this becomes your PC. To touch base on the security element only, which again, I only want to highlight on the security because obviously there are various things we can talk about this line. So HP, with actually our business heritage and our strong working relationship with Microsoft, we brought a huge amount of learnings to the space. So at the chipset layer, we have secure boot, we have image encryption, and we have anti-rollback as well, and obviously the TPM 2.0, which I've been emphasizing. On the device level, we have dual biometrics. So actually, if you see it live, we have a fingerprint reader on the back of the device. We have hardware encryption, and we have a cryptographic encryption as well. I mean, there are too many technical words here, but we are incredibly thoughtful about how to solve some of the common customer problems when it comes to device and the security. We also have facial recognition for when a fingerprint is not a convenient example of if you're wearing gloves or if it's cold, et cetera. And fingerprint reader sits on the back of for a convenient user experience. So just to focus on one slide of how this device will secure in your environment. Sorry, I'm just going to run a short video to give you an idea of what this device is. Sorry, that was a very fancy presentation in terms of the video, and I hope you got a better idea of what this device will be, because it will be difficult to cover everything in 15-minute slot. So that actually this Elite X3 is completely different. Okay. In summary, I hope I managed to transmit the excitement what we are doing at HP all around the world and trying to pull the X3 proposition together for our customers like yourself. In summary, again, it's a killer device on itself. We have a very strong ecosystem of docks and accessories, which you kind of loosely saw on the video. The HP Workspace software actually works very well if you don't want to migrate anywhere. You can access your Windows applications. And it's all supported and amplified by our strength in the commercial space to make this happen. And this really leads to us to truly believe that we are pushing way beyond a phone concept that can do more to building a new category of next generation computing. And that's what I would say to conclude this presentation. Thank you very much. I think I'm here for the length of the call to take any questions, but I want to pass on to my lovely colleague, SMB technology guy, James Marshall from Microsoft.
Thank you very much. So thank you for covering off all of that great stuff. I'm actually really excited by the X3. So I'd love to get my hands on one when the time is right. But I have the dubious pleasure of being the SMB technology guy for Microsoft in the UK. You can follow me on Twitter and on all sorts of other places if you ever want to ask me questions or find out what's going on in my rather mundane life at Microsoft. You can reach out to me that way afterwards. If you could move to the next slide, please. Obviously, we've spent a little bit of time hearing about the modern workplace and the way things are going and some of the trends that there are in the market. I think it's probably worth understanding a little bit about the sort of the mobile-first, cloud-first reality that we see from our perspective when it comes to the data and what's happening with the stuff that's going on to these devices and the way in which people are accessing that stuff. And in some cases, some of the quite surprising realities that organizations are presented with that perhaps they either weren't aware of or maybe weren't unwilling to admit to themselves are the case. The one that stands out for me is the sort of 80% of employees admit to using non-approved software as a service applications. That's anything from things like Dropbox, Google Apps, even OneDrive from Microsoft. Any application they're kind of thinking, oh, I'll just pop something there It doesn't really matter. IT don't know about it, but it makes it easier for me to do my job. Well, that's a real risk, particularly in the legal sector, because you're dealing with all sorts of information, not just about your own companies, but potentially about clients, some of it potentially very damaging. Obviously, you want to make sure that any IT that your employees are using is secure and managed. And what's even more startling is 15%, only 15% of large organizations will have adequate mobile security governance for process and policy. And that's really, really alarming when you consider that a lot of organizations, if you were to ask their IT departments, do you think they're doing IT well today? Do you think they're covering security well today? They may well say yes. But actually, there's a lot, as I say, that's going on underneath their noses. There's this shadow IT that Enterprise Mobility Suite can help address. And so if we go to the next slide. So basically, we see it in three buckets. I'll go into what exactly Enterprise Mobility is from Microsoft. But when we think about what customers need, we hear that they just need a secure experience across devices, and ideally one that's fully integrated so that users don't have multiple sets of identity, lots of usernames, passwords, all sorts of bits and pieces, and they don't want to be tethered to one device. They want to be able to access everything from everywhere. So whether that's that bring your own device scenario, whether it's a corporate managed device, a phone, a tablet, at home, at work, at a client site, wherever, they want to be able to access their stuff. And furthermore, they just want to be able to move stuff into a place where it just works. It's increasingly expensive to manage IT on premises, to invest in data center time and space and management. It'd be much easier if people could move data, particularly services, software as a service stuff, into the cloud. And then not only is it accessible everywhere, but it's always up to date. It just works. It's secured. You can get better insight into it because of its cloud-connected nature. And those are the three tenets, really, of enterprise mobility, and we seek to empower that by addressing those areas. So Enterprise Mobility Suite pulls together the best of device management Microsoft has, extra technologies such as rights management and threat protection and analytics, and basically puts all that together into one product which you can take either on its own, or if you have things like Office 365, or if you're using Windows 10, it enhances those so that you get the best of all worlds. If you go to the next slide. So the differentiator for us with the Enterprise Mobility Suite, as I say, is that it integrates with Office 365, which is our productivity set of services. It enhances them through, as I say, things like rights management and the ability to manage devices and control where documents and applications are going, and also helps secure Windows. So you don't necessarily need a Windows device. It will secure iOS and Android devices as well. But if you happen to be running Windows 10, obviously, you get the very best experience from the security and device management perspective, not least because as Rishi touched upon with some of the hardware enhancements around security, Windows 10 takes, from the software perspective onwards, all of the latest encryption technologies, integration with our Active Directory in the cloud, the ability to instantly lock and wipe devices, and all sorts of different bits and pieces. So Enterprise Mobility Suite pulls all of that together into sort of one package. So we go to the next slide. So when we think about Enterprise Mobility Suite in the context of Office 365, if you're an organization, let's say, that's decided to take its email into the cloud and benefit from, massive mailbox space and great reliability, access everywhere, and all the rest of it, Enterprise Mobility Suite then allows you to attach to other software as a service applications with that same identity that those users are using to access their email. So maybe you're let's think you might be a Box customer or a Salesforce customer or something like that. You don't want your users to have multiple usernames and passwords, so you can use Azure Active Directory, which is the identity source for Office 365. So they have their email address, which is their user account. They sign in with that, and then they can have seamless access to all sorts of other services. A really good example is Twitter. So lots of companies today, whether it's through marketing or through just general interest, will have some kind of social media presence like Twitter. And for any of you that have ever used it, you know that you just have one username and password to access a Twitter account. So if you want multiple people to be able to post to the company Twitter account, you have a choice to make. You can either funnel all the content through one poor person who's got to do it all, or you give lots of people the company username and password. And that's a real information security risk because, of course, if an employee leaves the organization, you've then got to remember to reset the password, or that person could get out before that process happens and start posting all sorts of bad information. So wouldn't it be great if you could not give them the username and password and instead say, right, use your Office 365 account for the period of time that you need access to these applications. We're going to enable that through your Office 365 account or your Azure Active Directory account. And then when you don't need it anymore, we'll take it away. So you never need to know the username and password for the company Twitter account, for example. You just use your Office 365 account or your Azure Active Directory account. And then EMS, Enterprise Mobility Suite, will allow access to those applications sort of obfuscated, so you never get the risk of somebody being able to run off with the company credentials, for example. You can then control how that goes onto devices. So obviously with a managed device, you want full access. It's going to be probably a domain-joined PC, so it will have all of the group policy and all this other wonderful stuff applied to it. Then it will be secured in exactly the way that you expect it to be. But increasingly, people want to be able to access their email on the go, and particularly in industries where you have customers who are paying for your time, you're always available. There's no such thing as I stop working. If somebody's willing to pay you a day rate, then you work, and that might often mean that you're working on devices that are not necessarily plugged in work or not necessarily a laptop. So you want to make sure that when those devices are connected to your corporate information, they have policies applied to them, like requiring encryption, requiring a PIN, perhaps disabling features. Maybe you don't want a camera to be enabled because you don't want people taking pictures with those devices, or you want to disable the screenshot functionality or whatever. Again, EMS, when you connect it to your corporate information, can apply those restrictions to all manner of devices. So you can safely allow people to connect to their corporate mailbox or their corporate files within SharePoint or wherever, and know that the device that they're accessing on meets a minimum level of security and protection, if you like. So you can do that. And then really the rights management piece. So regardless of the device and regardless of the identity, the data itself is still in question. So there's always the risk that that Word document or that spreadsheet or that project file or whatever it might be could accidentally still get out. And, we've all seen it in the news where a memory stick's been left behind on a train, or somebody's accidentally emailed a spreadsheet full of, sensitive information. These things do happen, right? It's just the reality of the human condition. People make mistakes. Information rights management is kind of that extra belt and braces approach to say, even if a file leaves my organization or gets into the hands of somebody that shouldn't have it, information rights management can be applied to those files such that if I protect a file and I give it to somebody who doesn't have the credentials to be able to access that file, then even if they have the file, they can't open it or do anything with it. So, for example, Microsoft adopts this practice every single day. We have some information rights management policies. So when I send a confidential email, I'll mark that as Microsoft employees only. If I accidentally send that on to, let's say, a journalist or a competitor, because that's been marked as Microsoft employees only, obviously that journalist or that competitor or whoever won't have credentials as a Microsoft employee and therefore won't be able to open whatever it is that I sent them. So that's all enabled by a combination of Enterprise Mobility Suite and Office 365. And then lastly, if you jump to the next slide, it's a similar story for Windows 10, as you might imagine. So we can do all sorts of provisioning and management wonders. So anyone that's ever been through the process of rolling out new devices, particularly large numbers of devices, knows that it can be quite an arduous process. You know, you need to make sure that users know what they're getting for a start, that it's been correctly configured, that it works, that it's been, you know, asset tagged and built with the corporate image, and it's had all the right scripts run on it and all sorts. Well, actually, Enterprise Mobility Suite takes a large amount of that pain away, because you can do certificate provisioning automatically, so you can just enroll a device. It will automatically pull down all the information that it needs in order to secure it, domain join it, all the rest of it. So instead of having to go through this massive front-loading process where some poor bloke in IT has to sit there with 20 or 30 laptops and go through the same process checklist every single time, 20 times over and over. And believe me, I've done it. I used to be a network manager in schools. I did 74 laptops over one summer. It was horrendous. It would be great just to be able to give a user a device and say, here you go, fire it up. And the device says, right, who are you? And you say, well, I'm from this organization. And it then says, brilliant, I know exactly who that person is and what that organization is. I'm going to now push down all of the certificates, applications, profiles, policies, the lot onto that device, so that it's ready for that user to use in a matter of minutes, but it meets the security requirements of the organization. And there are other enhancements that Windows 10 takes forward, which we can always follow up on if we need to, and there's lots of documentation online about that. But again, Enterprise Mobility Suite takes all of that and puts the ability to run all that in the cloud, so you don't need servers on premises and all the rest of it. You can just do it all through the web. So that's hopefully a flavor of Enterprise Mobility Suite from Microsoft. As I say, it's several pillars of technology to enable people to work from anywhere, on any device, securely and seamlessly, so that they don't know that there's ever an issue, and you can be safe in the knowledge that your company information is never at risk, and neither are your users. So, as I say, that's scratching the surface. There's a ton more about EMS, which is available online, and I'd encourage you to go away and read it and ask your account managers for more information. But I'll leave it there